Hello, everybody. Okay, I think I'm live. I am trying this again. For some reason, I'm perfect. I'm hoping the audio it's fine. I'm going to adjust. Just bear with me. I am going to adjust so you can see a little bit more of my working area. Perfect. I was trying to use my camera, but for some reason the camera just died on me. So I have to start this again. Hi again. My name is Lina Owen, and I am the face behind Bluebell Designs Bilingual Sewing Studio. And today I wanted to come live here and share with you just a project that is very dear to my heart. Is the Boxy pouch that I follow by Melanie Ham. Unfortunately, Melanie left us about a year, almost 2 years now. And but I really love her tutorial, and that was kind of like got me started into the whole bag making experience. And so today I am going to just kind of go over these little pouches. I use them a lot. This one is a mini. There's a ton of tutorials. Another tutorials that I do recommend for you to check out is the one with Oakley Roots, Jazz of Oakley Roots. I love her. I see all of her tutorials. I follow her on all of the social media channels, and she's just an amazing teacher. But today, I'm going to share with you the Boxy pouch. I wanted to make one, and I was thinking no class in the studio today, so it's like, what can I share with my audience? And so I think this little quilt project is perfect, and plus, I am going to use it. And so I'm going to go over, I'm going to do some changes. I'm going to turn this off a bit. When I was trying the first time, um, um, my camera died, so I'll delete that live. And so now we're here again. So we're gonna go over what we need. We really don't need a lot. This is perfect for like any scraps that you have laying around. And we have a lot of those. So we are going to need um, two rectangles for the exterior. I am using these beautiful fabrics from Tula Pink. So I have these exteriors I'm looking at to make sure that you see it the right way. So those, the medium size, and I put the link of her blog, where it has all the measurements, but I have it here in my notes just so that I could tell you. So for the medium size, which is the one that we're making today, the rectangles are 11 inches wide by 8 inches tall. Okay, and the same we're gonna do with the lining. So you're gonna need two of those, and then you're also going to need a zipper tab, and that's going to be these little things. So just gonna help you to open and close your little baggie right there. And that is 2.5 inches by 7 inches. I know that in some of her measurements, she has, in this one specifically, she has 8. But in the small and medium, no, the small and large in her blog, she has said that is 2.5 by 7. So I cut this one 2.5 by 7, as I don't think I'm gonna need 8 inches. It's gonna be pretty long enough to make the two zipper tabs. You don't need a lot to get them. So that's that. And then she in the blog says that use 14-inch pre-made zipper. I'm using zipper by the yard. I cut it more than I should. This is 15 inches, but she says 14. So however you want it, and I just love how it just pops. How the zipper, that's one of the things that I love about zipper tape by the yard. And there's a lot of people that now carry them. And they're also, the zipper teeth look like metal, but they're not, they're nylon. And so your machine can go through it. Sometimes you do have to go through it very slowly, because if there's a lot of bulk, it does break your needle. So just be very careful if you're using a domestic machine as like the one I'm using. And so, yep, that's that. And another fun part about it is you can get so many different colors to just kind of match or highlight colors on your fabrics. So that's one of the reasons also I love it. Another thing is the zipper pulls. You can get many different designs. I'm gonna put this closer so you can see it. Okay, so right there, better. That one is a rose, and these zipper pulls are by, what are these are by? Mormino. These ones were, I got those for a class, that the first class that we ran here at the studio. And I got extra, so might as well use them. So that's what we're gonna do. And they are also going to need fusible fleece. Fortunately, because I was live on the other video, I was fusing. The fusible fleece already, I wasn't done yet, but so you're gonna need the same size of fusible fleece. This one is already fused. You can see, nice infused, and that's kind of how you want it to be. And I'm gonna move those aside. So I'm gonna do a few things different, as you're gonna see, compared to what Melanie did. She used the pre-made zippers. I'm using the zipper by the yard type with zipper pulls. And then on the zipper tabs, I'm gonna use this inner facing. It's called Shape Flex, and just to give it a little bit more body to the tab, because we do kind of pull on it, and with wear and tear, I just want to make sure that this, and plus it's cotton. So if you use it a lot and it's not in your face, it does wear much faster. So this is a perfect way to kind of give it more body to your fabrics. You could also interface the lining if you want to, but if you don't, that's totally fine. I thought about it, but I'm a little bit concerned that it's going to get a little bunky at the time of sewing, so I decided not to, because we are already using fusible fleece, which is, very thick and fluffy and does give a lot of volume to the fabric. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish. Where was the one that one is good? Is this one that, and we're still missing. I'm using my little dandy mini project iron from Oliso, which I love. Yeah, this one is still, as you can see. So when you're fusing your fusible fleece, you're making sure that the bumpy side is up. So you place your fusible fleece with the bumpy side up, and then you place your fabric with wrong side down, so that it adheres to the wrong side of your fabric. And I'm gonna turn this on, and then you just kind of press it in like so. And the fun thing about this little new iron and the redesign, they came out with this one last year, and it has a new handle. I did not get the other one because I heard I mean, everybody loved it, but I hear mixed reviews that it got really hot, that leaked a lot. I don't use water on my irons anyways, but and so now they redesigned it, and I didn't wait. I was like, I gotta get this one. I gave one to my mother-in-law as well. She didn't have the mini either. She doesn't use Oliso. She used, I think it's Rowan, the brand that she uses. I mean, I think it's you use whatever you want or whatever you think is best for you. So I'm gonna give you some tips on how to work with zippers by the yard. So first, if it's too wrinkly, because sometimes they come roll or sometimes they come folded like this. It all depends on how it is. But with not super hot, like we use it for cotton because we are working with um, synthetic materials. You just kind of like on the zipper tape, kind of put your iron a little bit in there just to get it nice and flat. So that's kind of like what I do. I take my time and I just press it, kind of going against the teeth, but not staying too much because if you put too much heat on those teeth, they're going to melt because, and once again, they're plastic. They're not metal, they're plastic. And plus, if they're metal, you're gonna get burned because they will get hot real fast. So you just kind of press that nice, like so. All right, and then we're gonna put the zipper pull. And so people always say, what's the right or wrong side of putting the zipper pull? Um, that's a controversy. I really don't know. But what I do know, and there's a bunch of tips and tricks on regards of how to put it. You can use a fork, many ways. I and just open just a little bit. This is my just maybe half an inch, and that way you keep everything nice and aligned, and everything else is like nice and closed. And so you're going to put your zipper pull um, with kind of the middle divider going towards you, and then you insert one like just like the little tippy, and then do the other one just like and then that way you kind of just push it down and it's right in there. Sometimes it bubbles a bit. If that bothers you, you can redo it again. It doesn't bother me because anyways we're going to be using less than this. So just gonna put it in there, and then we have our zipper pull install. Okay, so now we're gonna go with the directions of the super simple. I'm changing just a few things. But before we get started, I'm going to fuse the zipper tab that we're using. And I am going to, the Shape Flex also has the bumpy side up. This one is a little bit bigger. So like if your piece is a little bit bigger than your fabric and you don't want to get all that glue in your iron, you can just put it wrong side down and just kind of like press. I'm gonna turn my iron up and I am just pressing. Perfect. And if you have like extra, I can just kind of like with scissors, I just trim it so that it's like the right side. Sometimes your cutting is not as precise, but that's okay. All right, I got my garbage somewhere right there. And then what we're gonna do is that you can do this two ways. And you can fold this in half and press it the zipper tab. And then once you press it, you're gonna fold the long edges inside the middle mark that you did. All right. And then you're gonna fold in half again. So you're gonna fold kind of like hot dog style in this way. All right. And so then, or you can just mark the 1.5, the 1.25 inch, which is the half, because we're talking about that this is a 2.5 inch, 2.5 inch wide. And so you can just mark, and you can use any type of marker, a fabric marker or a regular marker. These ones kind of erases with heat, and so you just kind of mark it. I'm gonna move my ruler, and then you just kind of fold that in towards that mark line. It's right there. Very good. And then do the other side, and we're just prepping our zipper tab so that when we go into top stitching, we have this already prepared and ready to go. All right, and so now we're gonna fold that in half. So what this does is that it hides all the raw edges of the fabric, and we get a really nice finished piece. So with the fusible inner facing, it does get a little bit bulkier, but I like how resistant it will be. You just kind of press that. If your fabric doesn't want to stay, it's going to open a bit. And if you want it to just like really stay, just kind of put some clips. I use clover clips for this. There we go. So then we got our piece prepared. So now the first thing we're going to do is we are going, I'm going to just press this quickly just to make sure this is nice and adhere to my fabric. Perfect. Alright, so I'm going to turn that off. We'll use it in a little bit. Okay. So now it depends. The rule always says that when it comes to zipper or how to install a zipper is that when you open it, when you open the zipper, it's towards your right if you are a right-hander, and then close to the left. But if you are a left-hander, then you're going to be opposite. Open it to the left and closing it to the right. It's all up to you, but I usually just kind of follow that rule because I am right-hander, even though I can write with my left. But it all depends. My dominant hand. If your dominant hand is the right, try to do that. And so then what you're going to do is that you're going to put one of your exterior pieces that is 11 inches wide by 8 inches tall, and put your zipper tape right side down, okay? And one of the reasons why I like to cut it, the zipper by the tape, larger, I'm gonna tell you, is because I can move the zipper teeth or the zipper pull all the way towards the edge. And so when I'm working and sewing my piece, I don't have the zipper pull in the way. So that's one of the reasons why I do cut it larger. So I am just going to place some clips right on that top edge. Make sure that if you have directional fabrics that you are paying attention to that to make sure that you have your fabrics facing the wrong way. If it's directional, you don't want it upside down, right? So that's something that you really have to pay attention to. Most people, depending on how you like working with zipper tape, okay, or with any type of zipper, you can go ahead and baste your zipper to the exterior, so that way when you add your lining piece, you kind of don't have to mess around with it. So for the purpose of teaching you, I am going to um, paste. And so we're gonna paste this at a 1/4 of an inch. So if you don't have a guide, another thing that you can do is that you can just, I'm gonna move some of my zippers here, my clips, and you just kind of like mark the 1/4 of a seam allowance when we're going to do the basting, or 1/8. However, you seam is closed, you can do 1/4 or 1/8. It depends also if you're using zipper by the yard. Um, they have different teeth width. Teeth is like the part that opens and closes. They have the 5 millimeter, I believe, and the 3 millimeter. I'm using the 5 millimeter, which makes that is the zipper tape is wider. So I could go and sew that at a 3/8 of an inch and have no issue. But if you're using the 3 millimeter teeth width, I would recommend that you use a 1/4 of an inch, because otherwise the seam is going to be really close to those teeth, and you really want the zipper pull to open and close very comfortably. I'm just going to kind of align that. And so because I have my zipper pull out of my way, I'm going to move it a little more, with being careful that I'm not going to, I can move. Okay, and so I'm going to just gonna go here and just sew this closer to the, all right, and I got my scissors. So I'm gonna show you here. So I just kind of like stitch right a little bit, like 1/8 of an inch. Um, right? And so when we do that, now we can put our lining right sides together, make sure that we align everything. And you can pin. And on this one, what I'm gonna do is that we are going to do a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I'm going to just mark it here, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to mark it right here in the wrong side of my fabric. Okay. Then I'm gonna show you. See, I marked it right there. Normally I would have a seam tape on my machine, but these are the machines from the studio, and not everybody likes having that, and so I am not going to add it because it's not my personal machine. It's the studio, so it's like borrowed. So I am just aligning my fabric so that they're nice and even. So my seams are very straight and my sides are very straight. And then I'm going to just put clips. I'm not a I'm not such a big of a clipper, but it all depends. Like if I'm working with curves, yes, I put a lot of clips. Clips can be your friends if you're working with curves, but I think it's a good practice to pin. So I'm gonna be good and teach you ways that will make it easier for your first time sewing. So it does take a little bit of time. I am kind of like a fast sewer. Um, and so one of the things that teaching has been really good is that it does forces you to slow down and kind of like really take your time to say, this is how you can make your experience much easier, right? So now we're going to sew at a 3-inch of an inch seam allowance. Important that I did not mention is that I'm using 2 or 2.5 length of the stitch while you're sewing. You want your construction sewing stitch length to be very good. You could use a zipper foot with this because it does get, kind of close to the zipper. Let's see if I'm gonna change it just to kind of show you. I'm going to just put my zipper foot there, and then we're gonna go right here, and we're gonna go and sew this, and we're gonna back stitch at the beginning and the end. My foot, my pedal is like moving. Oh, what is going on there? There we go. And just go nice and slow. If you are not comfortable with using zippers, just take your time. And then I'm gonna just close that. Alright. And so we got that sewn right there. Who is a messy creator? I'm kind of a messy creator myself. So and then now you're going to press down. I'm gonna just check that. Oh yeah, perfect. So I use a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance on, but as you can see, because this is a lot of zipper tape, that's the reason why I cut. But if it was thinner, I would like gotten really close to the zipper and I wouldn't be able to like really close it as much. It will like the fabric would get into the zipper pull. So just be very careful depending on what type of zipper you're using. And so now what we're gonna do is just that we're going to just kind of iron that out, making sure that we pull the lining and we put lining and exterior round sides together like so. Like that. And then we're gonna just give it a good press. There we go. So we got that. Really nice. And then we go here towards the back as well. Make sure everything nice and even. Another tip, if you don't have an iron close by, you can just pull your ends and you can just clip. You can clip on the bottom, and that way you make sure that you're pulling those fabrics really tight and making sure that this seam is like nice and neat. So now we're going to attach the exterior and the lining on the other side of the zipper tape. So we attached it to one side. Now we're going to attach it to the other side of the zipper tape. So now making sure you look at your exterior once again. If you have directional fabric, make sure that you do that. And then you just going to put your exterior right side down with this part of the fabric and the zipper right side up. And then you're going to just align, making sure that everything is very even. And then you're going to align it with the very top of that zipper tape that is unsewn. Making sure you got everything nice and even. I don't want this to go too far from me. Very good. And so once again, you could just base that in place, and that's what we're gonna do just to be good. So it does make it easy, so that way you kind of base that into place. So I'm just going to go and base that like 1/4 or 1/8 of an inch, something very small. There we go. And we're just gonna go and cruise down all the way down, like so. Good. Excellent. And we got that. And now I'm still working with my zipper foot because I think that will make it easier for brand new sewers out there. And so there's two ways that you could do. What you could do is that you base the exterior this way. Now you're gonna turn it, and you're gonna have your, how do you call this? Your lining. Oh my goodness, your lining, right? And then you're gonna place it right side down, facing together, right? And then you're going to align it towards that top, and we're gonna sew it at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. But I am going to make my line because again, I don't have my super dandy zipper tape, not zipper tape, seam allowance tape. There we go. Those are very useful. And I'm going to just mark my seam allowance there. Just give me a nice straight shot. Just being very nice and precise. We do want this to turn out as pretty as we wanted it to be. Okay, so we're clipping again. If you want to use pins, feel free. For me, pins, they pinch me. So well, they're supposed to do that, right? But I get too bloody and Nobody needs blood in a video or in my fabrics. So now what we're gonna do is that we're gonna go once again and we're gonna just sew all the way down, and we're gonna back stitch at the beginning and back stitch at the end, making sure we secure those seams very nice. So I'm here, I'm going to just do align my needle with that marked line. I'm gonna lower my presser foot so that it can work, otherwise it won't sew. Go. Another good tip is that you can use a stiletto or your seam ripper or a wooden. There's so many stilettos available in the market. It's just kind of helps you guide the fabrics and get really close to the needle without having your fingers super close. And it just kind of aids you. There we go. That. And what this does is that we did that. And when we baste in place, we make sure that we're not fighting with the exterior. It's not like moving out of the way. We're just making sure that the lining is set and that we're just following that line. And then now, look at this, and wow, it's perfect. You see, this comes together so quickly. It's just such a fun project to make. I just love them. They're so useful. And so we're just kind of pressing away to make sure that they're like out of the way. And now we iron from the back. And making sure that's not like, it's like nice and bold. There we go. My little dandy iron. So once again, if you could, or if you want to, I don't know what happened with this. Got out of line, but it's all good. And so I'm just gonna clip this on the bottom. And now what we're gonna do is that we're going to do a top stitch, like a 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch right outside that seam that we just created, to just kind of keep the joint fabrics together away from the zipper, and just gives it a very nice professional finish. So for top stitching, I recommend that you increase your stitch length to at least a 3. It could be between 3 and 3.5, whatever you like. I'm gonna do a little bit more than 3 there. And then we're gonna top stitch the zipper, and we're gonna top stitch our zipper tabs. And with our zipper tabs, we're gonna do the same, about 1/8 of an inch right on this folded edge and on the other side as well. So let's get all those things done. We're moving along. That is such a fun and easy project, and perfect for people that just want to start making bags. It's just such an amazing project to do. So I'm just trying to think. She does say to leave. Okay, she does make a suggestion, and I'm gonna do that we mark a 1/2 inch from this edge, from the edge to the inside. So we start our top stitching a 1/2 inch in. And I'm gonna do that just to, and we're gonna do that in two cells. And then we're gonna explain why. There's two ways to do it, but that's just kind of a way. We're gonna just mark it. Today, I think I'm gonna have to get another pen. It's too close to the colors of these fabrics and it's not showing, but I'm marking a 1/2 inch in between the border, the edge of this side of my fabrics, and the same with the other, and that's where I'm gonna start my top stitch. So I'm gonna start my top stitch in there. Revise that you have your stitch length as you wanted it to be. Yep, and then lower that presser foot, and then start. I think I'm gonna, that's my marker. Alright, I'm gonna go there. Alright, then I'm gonna start. Make sure that you pull. And then back stitch at the beginning, at the end. Another thing is that use a type of thread that was gonna look nice on the front. I'm using this gray thread, so I can use it for all of it, but if you wanna use a very specific thread for it, just make sure you do so. As you can see, it's nice and top stitch right there, perfect. Now I'm gonna do the other, and I start and stopped. And then I think I'm gonna do it this way. And then I'm gonna just trim those threads. All right. And another advice is just keep like trimming your threads as you work, just to keep your project nice and neat. All right, so we top stitch. I'm gonna move my trash closer to me so I don't have to stretch. There we go. It doesn't show, so it's not a pretty trash can. No. I should have a pretty trash can for the studio, but I just got these very normal ones from Walmart, I believe I went to. I need to get more like quilty type. And so now I'm going to do the same here. With my tab. These ones you don't have to backstitch, and the reason is because the end is going into the seam, so it's not like it's going to unravel. The reason why you backstitch is so that your thread doesn't unravel, but there's no need on this one. All right, so we are going to I'm gonna show you how this looks, nice and pretty. Yeah. Don't you love when things like start coming together? They just look so fun. Perfectly done. There we go. So now we're gonna fold that in half and we're gonna cut it. And the reason why we're cutting this is because we're gonna then fold them in half again. And those are going to be placed right here as our zipper tabs. And they're gonna be looking so cute. Another thing that you can do if you don't want to pin them, you can just like top stitch them to keep them together. I'm gonna do that because that's a nice way. Plus, it keeps them from not getting crooked when you're sewing because hey, they can get crooked. So that kind of just helps you. So I'm just gonna do this. All right. And they're nice. There we go. So that when you put them in, they're gonna stay nice and even, and so they're gonna look beautiful in your project. Beautiful, right? Then what now we're gonna do is that now we're gonna move, and don't worry about the extra zipper. We'll cut that later on, but it's just made it easier while getting everything together. So now we're gonna put exteriors together like so, right then, and then we're going to just clipping is our friend, as we said, right? We're gonna clippy. I just thought about something. It would be fun to like put some music and be dancing. I normally listen to music when I'm sewing, so. And then we do the same with the lining, right sides together. Very good, very good. But in here, and one thing is that if we would have put inner facing on the lining, it would have been with more body. It's like, I don't know, it kind of gets like easier to handle. When it's not inner face, it's a little bit. That's one of the reasons when I quilt, I like to starch because the starch also gives body to the fabrics without interfacing, obviously, because you don't, when you're quilting, there's a lot of seams and you don't want that bulk. But in the lining, we're gonna mark, and we're gonna mark maybe a 4-inch. So this is 1, 2, so we're gonna do 4 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna do 5. Just to be safe, so I'm gonna just kind of mark. What you could do also, you could kind of mark your half right there. And from your half, when you created your half, then if you're doing 5, then you do 2.5 from one side and 2.5 from the other side. We're gonna move that one over there. 2.5. There we go. And so now what we're gonna do is that you're gonna sew at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And once again, I don't have a sewing guide, so I'm gonna have to mark that because I want to make sure that I get it the right way. So I'm gonna do 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh, and by the way, what I'm looking, I never said. Your rulers are marked by like 1/8 of an inch. So you say 1, 2, 3. That's 3/8. So 1, 2, 3. Is that no? Hold on. 1, 2, 3. So just make sure that you follow the 1/8 of an inch and count 3, and that's your 3/8. Those little dots, the little lines. 1, 2, 3. Perfecto. And we're going to do this, and then we're going to go on the other side. And just going to do that. We don't have to mark all of it, but you can if you want to. Just kind of move your pins out of the way. It's just to have a reference. So then now you're going to go and sew that in. I'm going to sew that in. Very good. And now, because we had our sewing machine at a top stitch, you're gonna change it back to your construction stitch, whether that's 2.5 or 2, that's depending to you or lower. I'm gonna switch it to my regular foot now. I'm gonna go down here. Very good, very good. And I'm gonna start with my exterior. I'm gonna join, make sure that you back stitch at the beginning and at the end. I don't want to mark all of it because I am not such a straight sewer. Anything to help me make your life easier. That's all about enjoying the journey and kind of like getting those steps. So I'm gonna use my little seam ripper, and I'm going to start, go back, and just kind of go. This is the studio machine, so I'm not very familiar with it, but I'm getting there. I think I like it. So, and another thing is just kind of to show that you don't need a very expensive machine to start sewing or quilting. This is a very basic Burnett, and it gets the job done just like any other fancy machine. I mean, don't get me wrong. Those, oopsie daisy, like they tell my daughter. There we go. And so I'm going to just now with the lining, don't remember that we're going to stop. I'm going to show here. I left some markers, so I mark here, and that's going to be my opening. So that's where we're going to use to turn the bag right side out. It's called birthing the bag, and that's like a basic terminology. A lot of bags that you make where you have really nice finished edges use this method, or the other method is to do a drop-in lining when you just drop the lining into the bag and you kind of top stitch at the top. That's a little bit more advanced. And the other thing is you use binding. just to bind the bag. And by Annie does a lot of that for bags just to finish. And it's an easier way to like put a lot of like pieces, you sew it and then you bind it all together. And it also gives it a nice structure for the bag. But in this case, for this useful pouch, we're just using the birthing method of the bag. So I'm going to follow my markings, back stitch. When I get to my marking, I'm gonna back stitch again a few times. And the reason why I'm gonna do that is because when we're turning the bag right side out, we are going to put some pressure on that. Another trick is that when you get to that, and I should have done that without cutting my threads. If you go down on that mark, I'm gonna go like right here, and then you go down. What does that is that it makes a really nice fold for your fabric. So when you close your opening, it just makes it easier. So we're gonna do that. So for the lining, what we're gonna do is that we're gonna go up that mark, back stitch, and then go to the other end. So I'm gonna go up the mark that I did. I'm gonna back stitch right here. I'm just gonna play with my needle placement here. And I'm gonna go turn my project so that now I'm gonna finish my seam. I'm gonna go again. And then I'm gonna back stitch a few times. And that's it. All right, scissors down. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to divide our bag in half. So we're gonna fold it in half this way, because that's how it's gonna give us that shapey of the boxy bag. And so we're gonna fold it like this, and then we before you can fold it, you can just like move it out of the way, and you can just iron the seam open to get that a nice and crisp and flat. Let's see. Let's show you. So let's do this on the seam first to get it nice and flat. Nice and flat. Very good, very good. All right. And then we do the other one too. With the lining. I'm gonna show you here what we got. Oops. I think here at the office got some people. And then we're gonna like, it's just going to like form the 3-inch seam allowance really nice. But I'm going to just, there we go. Iron that. Right there. Oops. I guess I need a bigger table. And then we're gonna just kind of fold that to give us that 3-inch or 1-inch seam. Nice. There we go. Now, once we have figured that out, now we're going to do half and just gonna fold everything in half. And we're pressing really nice. All of it. making sure everything gets aligned. Very good. And what's going on with this one? And making sure that our lining also is the same. So just gonna take your time and adjust it so that everything gets nice and in this shape, and that your lining and your exterior are the same size. And now you're gonna give it a really nice press. Very good press to your fabrics. You do it from the bottom, making sure everything is nice and centered. Always nice. And here, some irons don't like to iron against fusible fleece. I don't know why, but that happens. So that also, again, when we move and we pull, make sure that you move your zipper pull out of to the center of your bag, so that way, because we're using extra zipper tape, that you don't want, you don't leave your zipper pull out of the way, and then you're in a pickle, then you have no zipper pull. And then I think I'm just still adjusting the center of my bag. So take your time, just making sure it looks how you think it is. Just making sure kind of like my centers didn't kind of center the way I wanted it. It's all right. Just readjust and re-iron, making sure everything is centered. And there we go. That way. All right. And there we go. So now what we're gonna do is that I'm going to leave that. So what we're gonna do is that, remember when we left the 1/2 inch outside? So what I'm going to do is that from the seam line right here, I'm going to mark a 1/2 inch right there and a 1/2 inch. That's my 1/2 inch. That's my inch. Oh my God. All right, my 1/2 inch from that. And I'm gonna explain why. So from your seam right here, you're gonna mark a 1/2 inch down from the seam to one side and from the other, because when we're gonna sew this individually, all right, we're gonna sew all the way up to that, all right? So we're gonna sew from here down and from here down, and then the same on the other side with the line, because we're gonna sew our exteriors individually and then our lining individually. And then what we're gonna do is that we're going to, this is where our zipper ends. So what we're gonna do is that we're going to close them together, and so that is nice and neat. So I'm going to mark again, is from your seam center line, 1/2 inch down, and 1/2 inch down, because this way we're gonna like sew, back stitch there, sew down, start, back stitch, sew down and back stitch. And then we're gonna mark the same on our lining. We're gonna do the same operation. It's just gonna make that our process much easier. And it doesn't matter what type of pen you're marking because that's gonna like eat itself. So we're gonna sew all of these at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So that's another thing that you need to make sure that you do. Since that you're doing your 3/8. Right, that you're just starting at that 3/8 mark, half an inch down. If I take my marker out, 1, 2, 3, my goodness. Sorry, guys. And then it's a half an inch down, so like that. So I'm gonna show you how I did is that I marked the half an inch down from the seam, and then I marked the line at a 3/8 of an inch. And I did that, and then I'm gonna do the same here. And that's how you, and trust me, this is gonna make the process so much easier. It's a little different to what Melanie had it in her video because she has you, and that's the reason why she doesn't tell you to like sew all the way through and just leave a half an inch. Is so that way you can like kind of lift the lining and be able to individually sew. But if you leave the half an inch, and then what we're going to do is that then we're going to sew all of the layers together between that half an inch space, and then it's going to close that gap, and it's going to be so neat. So before we sew everything together, we're going to pin. We have to enter our zipper tab. So the way that you enter those is that where the zipper is, you're gonna place them inside in, facing inside the back, all right? And you just kind of align them. If you want them to get like stick out a bit more, that's totally fine. And then you put a clip. Oh, that's not a clip. That's a pin. So you're just gonna clip them together. And that one is gonna stay right in the half inch seam allowance where all of the seams are going to nest. So it's gonna make it really, really nice and simple. So I'm gonna do the same with my other one. All right. And then I'm gonna mark my 3/8. And I'm just going from one to the other. Because of this one, I'm using the inner facing, so it's not the fabric itself. I feel more comfortable using this pen. I just don't want this marker to bleed into my fabrics in any way. But because I'm using inner facing on the exterior, I feel more comfortable because I'm marking the inner facing and I'm not marking the fabric directly. So that way you can see better what I'm talking about. So you have the half an inch down from the seam, and then you have the 3/8 of an inch. So what we're gonna do is now we're going to just kind of sew, kind of lift the exteriors. So we're gonna sew one side of the exterior together, I'm just gonna have to move this pen right here this way. If you wanna use a zipper foot on this step, feel free, because it does get a bit bulky. Another way that you can do it, I'm gonna start with this one, so you can start from the bottom and go towards that, and then it will be easier. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start right here, back stitch, and I'm just gonna go up to the 1/2 inch mark and back stitch. And making sure that your interior is out of the way. Then I'm gonna do the same with this one, but oops, I needed to mark. So it's 1/2 inch is here, and then 3/8 of an inch is there. So that way I go from the bottom up. I'm gonna back stitch, go all the way up there, and back stitch. There we go. Oh, I wasn't sewing. It will help if I sew, right? Of course it happens because I'm live. It's okay. You guys don't mind. I'm hoping so. Ready. Oh, I do have someone joining me. Oh, hello. Retreading my machine again because it did not sew. All right, so we're keeping the lining away from it, and I'm gonna start from the bottom all the way to the top. Back stitch, go in, and then I get right to the 1/2 inch mark. Back stitch, and then trimming my threads, making sure it looks nice and pretty. All right, I got that one. This side is done. Now we're gonna get this side done. And done. And now I'm gonna need to do the same. I guess I'm gonna just, my 1/2 inch mark is right there. I just gotta transfer the markings to the other one. If you have a seam tape, this will make it so much easier. Put a seam tape on your machine. Trust me. Just gonna leave that out of the way, lift it up, go back and forth. There we go. Now lining kind of got a little bit discombobulated, but it's okay. And just making sure I got my, yep, I got my zipper right there. So now that I got that space out of the way, I can just pin it towards that. There we go. So because we left that 1/2 inch, now I'm gonna be able to just kind of pin it and keep it out of the way. All right. So now I'm gonna do the same with my lining. Now I'm gonna leave my exterior out. What you can do is that you can pin your exteriors or clip it. No, yeah, clip it, pin it, clip it. Making sure you keep it nice and square. And with this one, what's going on here? It's kind of not there. We're gonna go from the bottom at the 3/8 seam allowance, and we're gonna repeat all that on. Don't forget the back stitch. I don't know why my thread keeps on threading. I think it's a user error, not a machine error. Most of the times it's a user error. Okay. When you're having a hard time threading because the thread is kind of like it got a little big in the tip, just snip it. It just makes it so much easier to go through that little tiny hole. And another way that makes it easier if it's your needle is all the way up, so that way the thread doesn't get stuck in the zipper, in the presser foot, not zipper foot. We're not using a zipper foot. We use the zipper foot, but we're not using a zipper foot anymore. So we're gonna just continue back stitch. And we're gonna get, just gotta keep it all aligned. Get to that and just, there we go. And now we're gonna repeat with that. We're gonna move the 1/2 inch. Where did my other pen go? It's right here. I'm gonna mark the 1/2 inch right over here. And the reason why I have to do it on the back is because I'm going from the bottom up. So in order to get that on the other side, I have to mark my seam allowance on both sides. And I'm gonna go and just makes it easier for me to get close to that mark and not having to worry about the zipper foot not getting. And if your machine, when we're working with basic sewing machines, the height of our presser foot isn't as high. And so when we work on bulky things, that could be a challenge, but this is a way of getting around that bulkiness and using your standard machine. You can get so much done with just a standard sewing machine. There is no need for a very pricey. I mean, we want them. We all want the nice when we really get into it. We want all of the fancy machines. Trust me. I get it. The back stitch. There we go. All the way up to that marking. And once again, my machine unthreaded. What in the world? And then thread again. Alrighty. And so now we're gonna just do that. I think that's what's happening. It's getting caught and it's alright. And so our next step is to now really pay attention to our zipper tab that we left there. All right. And so now we're gonna keep that right in the middle, 1/2 inch space, and then we're gonna just kind of clip so things gonna get right there. And we're gonna sew between those 1/2 inch spaces and backstitch at the beginning at the end. And what that's gonna secure is that make sure that all of that we don't have a hole between our things. If we want to stick out the zipper tab, so if you want to like stick it up a little bit more, you can do that as well, and just kind of align it. There we go. And I can do that this one too. Just gonna move it out of the way a bit more. There. And so now we're gonna join all the ledgers only on those markings and just go really slow because it is gonna be very bulky because we have our zipper tab, our layers, and our zipper. So we're just gonna go really slow at the 3/8 seam allowance. So hold on. I'm at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Right there, I'm gonna lower my presser foot. I see my 1/2 inch mark, and I'm gonna go really slow here. There we go. And I'm just gonna hand crank it because it got a little too much for my machine. That way. And that we remove it. And I went right into that. That's perfect. That's how we want. And then we finish that side, and that's when we can just trim or zipper tape. There we go. You see? Now we secure all of those layers together. And we're gonna do that on the other side. So we only gonna do it on those marks, between those marks at the 3/8 seam allowance. So we start at that 1/2 inch marking. Oh, but I'm unthreaded again. At least this time I noticed it. All right. All right, now we're missing that one, making sure that that one is right there. We're looking at the zipper tab. And we're just gonna join all of our fabrics on that 1/2 inch marking. Lower our presser foot. And then start. Oh. I think something's wrong with my machine. I'm going to sew a little bit on this one. Something's wrong. Of course something's wrong. I'm live. I'm going to just Rethread my machine by putting the bobbin again, and then I'm going to rethread the machine. I'm gonna go up, down, and then we're really hoping that this will do it. We've been doing so well. You know what? I feel that this is good because that's what happens when we're sewing. We're just, everything is going so nice, and then all of a sudden it stops working. You're like, what happened? What did I do different? And I'm resetting it. All right. I'm gonna go with a little bit of these just to see. Oh, nice. I think now we're good. See? You just have to do sometimes a little bit of, how do you call this? Troubleshooting. That's what we sewers are. We are a little bit of bag makers and quilters. We like to troubleshoot our machines. This is not necessarily my machine, but it's the students' machines. There we go. So we're gonna start here. And we're gonna backstitch right there. And I'm gonna go really slow. You know what? I'm just gonna, this is not going to the, there we go. And I'm just going to, and that, you know what? That sometimes happens. You just hand crack things. And you go, and that gets the job done. Hand crack, and I'm just gonna get that to my half an inch. And I'm going to back stitch right there. There we go. And then I'm going to, just gonna remove my fabric. Perfect. And I think I was also not helping it because I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna back stitch, and I'm just gonna continue to push it, and I'm gonna just go over one more time just to really secure that. I'm gonna do it and stitch that. Very good. And then just keep working it. Be patient. This is the hardest part of your bag. If you have a more powerful machine than mine, that's not a problem. But, and even then, you see, you can get it done. Oh, no issue. And then what you're going to do is that you're going to just kind of cut that extra zipper tape. That's where we're going to cut it. And I'm just going to kind of cut this extra. I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to go over one more time like I did with the other one. So I'm just going to go, and I'm going to go just back and forth a little bit. And I'm just going to go and hand crank this and just go over it. Just to secure. It's when seams are so thick, like this one, I just like doing a double run through it just to make sure that it looks nice. It's not going to come undone with wear and tear. And you just move it out of the way. All right. And we're on to the next step. We're getting there. We just got some issues, but it's okay. So now that's gonna give our bag that boxy look, this boxy shape that we have here, like that one, the miniature one. We in each corner of each lining and fabric, we're going to draw a square that's 1 3/4 inches. So that's a square that's 1 3 4. Yeah, 1 3/4. And so just making sure that you do 1 3/4 on the top and the bottom. Right here. And so that it looks just like that. You're gonna repeat that in all corners on the exterior as well as on the lining. And so I'm just gonna continue with my markings here. And then that's 1, 2, then the other one. And triple check that you're actually measuring that right. You don't want to measure the wrong. Because otherwise the shape is going to, it all depends. If you want it wider, no, like shorter and like fatter, then you're going to do it smaller. And if you want it a little bit taller and skinnier, then you're going to do a larger square. So these are the measurements that you can play with. So I'm just going to here, just kind of play with my measurements, making sure I'm looking at the seam, that I'm doing my square properly. In the brown. So it's so important to pay attention. Otherwise, you're going to be drawing the wrong thing. And just take your time. There's no rush. And we're going to draw the last one, making sure we got all of it nice and straight. There we go. And once you mark them, then you're going to cut them. And the reason why you cut them and you mark them individually is because they kind of can shift on you. So if you mark them all together and then you're going to cut them all on one shot, you might not get the proper square, and then your bag is not going to turn out how it's supposed to. So you're just going to cut out the squares from the lining and the exterior. that way. And then we're, oops. Get good fabric scissors to work with. And cut your fabrics. And so now we got the exterior. There we go. And then beside making sure that your lining is out of the way, you don't want to cut into your lining, you already did. And it doesn't matter, you can start with your exterior, you can start with your lining, then you can toss that in the trash. But if you don't like tossing anything of fabric, I don't know what you can do with those. To me, those are in fact trash, so they're going in the trash. Because I guess I am creative, but not that creative. I don't know what would I do with those things. Maybe other people will tell me. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, and there's the magic. We're gonna have the magic happen. So now we're gonna open. You can help yourself by like opening more the zipper so that way you can kind of stretch the fabrics more. And what you're gonna do is that you're going to line the exterior and just gonna make it very flat. And you decide how you want the seam to be. Just make sure that when you're aligning the seam, when you do the other side of the exterior, you're sewing them the right way, or you can just sew them seam open. If seam opens, actually reduce bulk, and the way it doesn't matter which side it goes to. And then you just kind of clip that babies up, and then you're gonna sew at 3/8 of an inch of a seam allowance. And here I am in my problem again. No seam guide on my machine, so we're going to just mark it because that's what I do. And so that's how it goes, like that, like so. And then you're gonna sew back stitch at the beginning, at the end, really well. All right. And you're just gonna make sure that those seams are nice and straight, as you can see there, nice and even and straight. And now you're gonna enter those into your sewing machine and just gonna follow that. Back stitching, follow your guide, 3/8 of an inch, back stitch a few times, and then that's how you go. Another tip is that I should have sewn it from the top because he just kind of moved on me, but that's fine. Don't do what I do. Sometimes, and then we're gonna do the other side and make sure that the other side is nice and open. The seam, we open the seam, and we're gonna once again clip. You see, as you can see, I'm like really opening those seams, make them nice and flat. Nice and flat. We want that so that we get a very defined box. So we really have to work on that. Nice and flat. I am getting hungry. Hopefully you guys don't hear my tummy grumbling. But my tummy is grumbling because I'm hungry. So after I'm finished with that, I'm gonna have my lunch. Okay, so I do have thread here, making sure that I'm not unthreaded, and then we're gonna do that again. And it doesn't matter if you start with your lining or your exterior, because you have to do this operation to all of your 8 sides of your pouch. And so now we do it with this side. So again, make him nice and open. That's why opening that zipper, that makes a huge difference, so that it allows you to just kind of move things around and get those seams nice and straight. Don't be afraid to just smoosh them. Smoosh them, smoosh them. All right, I'm gonna move my clip here so that I can make a few marks right here. Again, we're marking 3/8 of an inch. Another thing is that you can just eyeball, and you can use the foot of your machine, and that just kind of that be your seam guide. And a 3 of an inch is a little bit over what your presser foot is, but that's another way that you can do. And again, I didn't do it how I was supposed to. I'm just making sure my seam is open. And I'm hoping I backstitch at the beginning. I think I did. Yes, I did. And now we're going to do this one as well. And making sure that it's nice and flat. Look at that. It's looking so good, guys. I love making these little pouches. They're just the funnest. You know what? Before putting the rest of the clips, I should make my life easier and just draw those lines like that. I forget. I'm always used to having my seam guide on my machine, but I'm not in my house. I'm at the studio. So I need to get more organized in the studio. But we'll get there. Backstitch. Making sure if you decide to open those seams, that those seams are open. And backstitch at the end. And keep clipping those threads so your project continues to stay nice and neat. And just check for any other thread that you haven't done. Like this one. And now we're gonna work on the lining, and we do the same. So we just kind of make sure that that seam is nice and straight, like so. And again, I am going to open my seams to just kind of keep everything consistent, like so. And then I am going to mark my 3/8 of an inch. Before I start sewing or clipping. Here to make it easier. And you're gonna just stretch it how you need it to be, making sure that the goal is so that we get a really nice defined box. That's why it's called a boxy bag. So, and then we're gonna go right there, backstitch at the beginning and at the end. If you're having a hard time, use a stiletto or use a seam ripper as well. That can work. Just making sure that you go all the way into the marking, backstitch. We're in the home stretch, guys. I hope you're enjoying this nice, quick, separate project. And so now we're gonna just kind of move it out of the way this way. And I'm going to move my fabric. So there we go. So that I get a nice, very good. I'm gonna clip that in the middle, and then I'm just gonna play around with the fabric so I get a nice straight seam right here. I should have marked my seam allowance there, but I was, once you have sewn the exterior or the other ones, or when you're like on the very last ones, they start to get a little tight. So just kind of manipulate them the best way you can to make sure that you still are getting that nice and crisp straight seam, because trust me, that makes a difference on your project. It's not difficult at all. It's just, you just gotta, like everything, take your time. Well, that's what I love about my wool mat. You put things there and they don't roll. Isn't it cool? If somebody knows why that happens, I don't know, but it does. It's cool. So I'm gonna use my seam ripper to just kind of aid me. Just gonna keep everything nice and together. It's kind of like my third hand. I'm just keeping everything nice and neat and flat. And cut that. And we're missing only two. So now I'm going to work on this one. The last one is always the most challenging one, but it's not in the small size. Even Melanie mentions that in her video. So like if you're gonna make it for the first time, go with this size or go with the large size. So, and then hoping you're seeing what I'm going through here. And I'm not marking my seam allowance at this point right now. It's because I'm just like really making sure that I get that seam really nice and straight. And then I'm gonna just place that down here and just mark things around. And then move my clip so that I can. And this is one of the reasons why lives are kind of cool, or that I think lives are cool, is because, like you really see the struggle. It's not like fast forward or edited. Yes, it makes the video longer, but I think it's still very cool. And then I'm going to just kind of sew, backstitch, continue with that same allowance, 3/8 of an inch. Backstitch. And we are into our last seam to create this boxy shape. My goodness, so close. So close. There we go. Here's our last seam. So you can see things get a little bit tighter just because we have all of our seams already created. But it's not impossible. You're just going to just smush things around Just move things so that you create your nice flag. There we go. Nice seam. Nice and straight. That's what we're looking for. Nice and straight as you're seeing. Nice and straight. And then once again, I'm going to just go and mark my 3/8 inch seam allowance. 3. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's becoming a little bit challenging on this one, but it's okay. We'll make do, right? That's what sewers do. We make do. So now, this one is now marked properly. And just be patient. Another thing teaching has really been good for me is being patient. Just be patient. That's an attribute I don't have a lot of. I would love to have more patience, but I'm working on that. I am truly working on that. I guess it's a chat. Not a chat. A chat. We're chatting. My goodness, can't speak. I'm hungry. And we have finished all of our sides. And now through the space that we left, we're going to turn it around. Oh, so cute. My goodness. Oh, those colors, Tula, you are the greatest. The greatest. Oh my gosh. Isn't this the cutest little pouch ever? Oh, and then you're just gonna poke all your corners, making sure all your corners are nice. And poked. And look at that. Oh my goodness, isn't that the cutest thing ever? Oh my God, look at our zipper tabs. They look so good. And our zipper pull, the flower zipper pull. Oh my gosh. And that zipper tape that just, that super dark green right there, that little bit of color, pop of color. Oh my God. And then now our last step is just to close or opening. So I'm gonna put it right side in again and the lining out. And then what we're gonna do is that we're just going to pull our fabrics in like that, and we're gonna top stitch. You can iron it once again to just kind of keep it nice and flat, but making that vertical line or the stitching that went down through the seam allowance just makes it so much easier. And then now I'm just gonna press this. Oops, I'm just throwing everything away, guys. Everything is just like flying around. I'm gonna put it up because now one is not enough seam allowance on one side. And I'm just making sure that I'm having the seam allowance, and we're gonna top stitch this baby up to close it. You could also, okay, hold on. You can also hand stitch it, like blinds stitch this so it doesn't show. But who has patience for that? I don't. If you do, more power to you, man. But I don't. So I sew it with my machine. Okay, and I going to just put it here. All right, and I'm going to tap stitch and making sure that it goes, that you watch where you have to start the top stitching. And then you make sure that you're cutting the 2 layers of it and increase your stitch length to the top stitch. And you do that at like a 1/4, 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. However, just make sure that you're getting both, that you're closing and grabbing both fabrics so that you close that hole. Now we back stitch at the beginning and at the end, so that one, it doesn't come off later on, and just strain your threads. And ooh, we made it on 2 hours. This is great. You see? And then we close it and it's nice and close. And so then now we put it right size out. And then that's one of the reasons why cutting all your threads is so important. So your bag is just so cute. Look at that. Oh my God. And then you got your little nice Boxy. And if it's a little wrinkly, you can iron it. And so don't do this at home. You can use, it will get hot. I know that there's tools that you can use to like iron, but that's kind of like what I do. Just put my hand in there. And when I feel that it's getting a little too hot, then I just remove it. Yeah, you can do some steaming on it just to make it nice. And just gonna try to get all those out. Well, this is our project. I hope that you enjoyed our Boxy Bag project. And well, hoping to see you next week Saturday for a new project. I'm very happy that I got to share this with you guys, and stay creative. See you soon.